Have you ever wondered if that small dime sitting in your change jar could be worth far more than 10 cents? You might want to take a closer look, because today, we're talking about a little coin with a big story, the 1968 D Roosevelt dime. This isn't just any dime. This particular coin has drawn the attention of collectors, treasure hunters, and hobbyists all across the country. Some versions of it are rare, some are valuable, and some have even sold for hundreds, yes, hundreds, of dollars. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's explore the fascinating world behind this tiny piece of American history. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946, shortly after the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. It was a tribute to his leadership and his role in founding the March of Dimes, which helped combat polio. But the specific coin we're looking at today, the 1968 D Roosevelt dime, was struck more than 2 decades later, during a time when the U.S. Mint was undergoing big changes. You see, in 1965, the Mint stopped making dimes with silver. Before that, dimes were made of 90% silver. But because of rising silver prices, the government decided to switch to a new material, a clad composition. That means the coins were made of copper sandwiched between 2 layers of nickel. The 1968 D dime is part of that newer clad series, and while most of these dimes are common, certain ones stand out, and that's what makes this story so interesting. The D in 1968 D stands for the Denver Mint, which is where the coin was produced. If you look closely at the front of the coin, just to the left of the torch and below Roosevelt's neck, you'll see a tiny D mint mark. That tells you it came from Denver. But here's where it gets exciting. Some 1968 dimes were struck without that mint mark, even though they weren't made in Philadelphia, where mint marks were often left off. That kind of error makes collectors sit up and pay attention. Let's talk about how to identify this coin and what features to look out for. The standard 1968 D Roosevelt dime weighs 2.27 grams. It has a diameter of 17.9 millimeters. The edge is reeded, which means it has little ridges along the sides. And it's made from a copper core with a nickel outer layer, giving it a silvery look without any actual silver in it. You'll see President Roosevelt on the front, facing left, with the word Liberty to the left, and the motto, "In God We Trust," just below his chin. The date, 1968, appears on the lower right, and the Denver Mint mark is just next to it. Now, let's say you find one of these dimes in your collection. How can you tell if it's valuable? Well, the condition is very important. If it's been in circulation for a long time, scratched up, worn down, it might only be worth face value, or perhaps a little more to a beginner collector. These circulated coins typically go for around 15 to 50 cents. However, if your coin is in uncirculated condition, meaning it looks almost brand new, with no signs of wear, it could be worth more. Uncirculated examples can sell for $2 to $5 or even higher, depending on eye appeal and detail, but the real treasure comes with certified coins and rare mint errors. Certified coins are those that have been graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC. If your 1968 D Roosevelt dime is graded MS 65 or higher, which means it has very few flaws, it could fetch anywhere from $10 to $30 or more. And if it's a proof-like example or has exceptional detail, you're looking at even higher value. Now, let's talk about mint errors. These are the coins that really spark the interest of rare coin collectors. Some 1968 D Roosevelt dimes have been found with off-center strikes, missing clad layers, or even double dies, where parts of the design are stamped more than once, creating a shadow-like appearance. These error coins can sell for $100 or more, depending on the type and severity of the mistake. Perhaps the most famous 1968 Roosevelt dime variety is the No S proof, although that one was minted in San Francisco and not Denver. Still, the popularity of that error has brought extra attention to all dimes from this era. For example, one certified 1968 D dime in nearly flawless condition sold at auction for over $200, thanks to its sharp strike and brilliant luster. Another example with a dramatic off-center error brought in $150 from a private collector. As interest in rare US coins continues to grow, many people are discovering that everyday pocket change might contain hidden treasures. Coin collecting isn't just a hobby anymore, it's a way to connect with history, preserve wealth, and even pass something meaningful down to the next generation. If you're someone who remembers when dimes were still made of silver, you already have a unique perspective. Your old change, or that jar in the attic, might hold something truly special. So the next time you're sorting through your coins, keep an eye out for the 1968 D Roosevelt dime. Look for that mint mark. Check the condition. And if something looks off, like a missing letter or unusual design, it might just be one of those valuable mint errors that coin collectors are always searching for. Thank you for spending this time with me. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about valuable coins, rare mint errors, or tips for coin collecting, be sure to subscribe. We've got lots more videos on the way to help you find the hidden value in your own collection. Until next time, keep checking your change, and happy collecting. Have you ever looked through your pocket change and wondered if there might be a hidden treasure in there? Maybe just an ordinary-looking coin that turns out to be worth a small fortune. Well, you might want to take a closer look at your dimes, because today we're talking about one of the most mysterious and valuable coins in modern American history, the 1975 No Roosevelt 1 dime coin. Now, right off the bat, you might be thinking, hold on a minute, there was no Roosevelt dime dated 1975 without a mint mark, was there? And you'd be absolutely right. That's exactly what makes this coin so fascinating, and so incredibly rare. Let's start with a little background. The Roosevelt dime has been a part of American coinage since 1946, honoring President Franklin D. Roosevelt after his passing. It replaced the Mercury dime and quickly became a staple in pockets and coin jars across the country. By the mid-1970s, most Roosevelt dimes were produced at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. But in 1975, something unusual happened. As the U.S. prepared to celebrate the bicentennial in 1976, the mint was gearing up to release special commemorative quarters, half dollars, and dollars, all dated 1776 to 1976. Because of that, no quarters, halves, or dollars were minted with the date 1975. However, the dime wasn't part of the bicentennial program, so it continued with its regular issue and kept the 1975 date. Now here's where things get really interesting. Every proof coin, those shiny, mirror-like coins made especially for collectors, struck in San Francisco should carry the S mint mark. But somehow, a few of these proof dimes slipped through the cracks with no mint mark at all. That means they were struck at the San Francisco Mint, as part of the 1975 proof set, but the little S was mysteriously missing. These error coins are now known among collectors as the 1975 No S Roosevelt dimes. And let me tell you, they are extremely rare. So far, only 2 genuine examples have ever been confirmed by professional grading services like PCGS and NGC. That's right, just 2 known to exist in the whole world. So, how can you tell if you've got one? First, it must be a 1975 Roosevelt dime that looks like a proof coin. Proofs have a very shiny, mirror-like background with frosty designs. The edge will look extra sharp, and the detail on Roosevelt's hair and face will be crisper than on regular dimes. Most importantly, if it's a true proof coin and it does not have a mint mark above the date on the obverse, that's the front of the coin, then you might be holding a multimillion-dollar mistake. Let's talk about the coin's features. A standard Roosevelt dime weighs about 2.27 grams and is made from a clad composition, that's a copper core sandwiched between layers of nickel. The diameter is 17.91 millimeters. All normal stuff for a US dime. What makes this one special is not what it has, but what it doesn't have, the San Francisco S mint mark. So why is this coin so valuable? It's a perfect storm of factors. First, it's an error coin, and mint errors, especially on proof coins, are highly prized by collectors. Second, it's a proof coin that was never meant to leave the mint without its identifying mark. Third, it's so rare that only 2 have ever been authenticated. That kind of rarity is almost unheard of in modern coin collecting. In terms of value, well, prepare to be amazed. One of the two known examples sold at auction for a jaw-dropping $516,000 back in 2019. That's over $500,000 for a dime. Let that sink in for a moment. Another known example has been estimated at a similar value, if not higher, due to its incredible scarcity and the demand from rare coin collectors. Now, let's be realistic here. If you find a regular 1975 dime with no mint mark, it was most likely made in Philadelphia, and those are common. You'll see them all the time in your change. What you want to look for is a proof version, that beautiful, mirror-like finish, crisp details, and no mint mark. And don't forget, just because a coin is worn or circulated doesn't mean it isn't valuable. Even in worn condition, if you've somehow come across one of these rare 1975 no-s dimes, it could still be worth tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. In uncirculated or certified proof condition, you're talking serious life-changing money. This is why coin collecting remains such a fascinating and rewarding hobby. Every coin has a story, some short, some long, and some worth a small fortune. Rare coins like this 1975 no-s Roosevelt dime are what collectors dream about. It's the reason people check their pocket change, their old coin jars, and those long-forgotten proof sets in the back of a drawer. So, if you're someone who's enjoyed collecting coins over the years, or even if you're just getting started, take a second look at those old proof sets, especially the ones from 1975. Who knows what you might find? Thank you so much for joining me today as we explored one of the most intriguing stories in U.S. coinage. If you found this video interesting and you'd like to hear more about rare coins, valuable U.S. coins, and mint errors that could be hiding in your change, be sure to subscribe to the channel. And while you're at it, give the video a thumbs up to help others discover the fascinating world of coin collecting. What if I told you that a simple dime from 2005 could be worth far more than 10 cents? That's right. Today, we're talking about a fascinating little piece of American currency, the 2005 P. Roosevelt dime. It's a coin many of us have likely held in our hands, perhaps passed over without a second thought. But for coin collectors and those who know what to look for, this small silver-toned coin might just be a hidden treasure. Now, let's take a gentle walk back in time. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946, shortly after the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. He had led the country through the Great Depression and World War II, and he was also a major supporter of the March of Dimes, a campaign to fight polio. To honor his legacy, the United States Mint replaced the Mercury dime with the Roosevelt design. His image has appeared on the front of the dime ever since. Fast forward to 2005, and the Mint was still producing Roosevelt dimes as usual. The Philadelphia Mint, which is represented by the small letter P on the coin, struck millions that year. But as with many coins, not every single one came out exactly right. And that's where things get interesting. Some of these 2005 P. Roosevelt dimes have features that set them apart, and make them sought after in the world of coin collecting. First, let's talk about how to identify the 2005 P. Roosevelt dime. On the front, or the obverse as collectors call it, you'll see Roosevelt's familiar profile facing left. Just beneath the neckline, near his collar, you'll find the mint mark, the letter P. This means it was minted in Philadelphia. On the reverse, you'll notice the torch in the center, flanked by an olive branch on the left and an oak branch on the right. This design represents liberty, peace, and strength. The standard 2005 P. Roosevelt dime is made from a clad composition. That means it's got a copper core and a layer of copper nickel on the outside. It weighs about 2.27 grams and has a diameter of 17.9 millimeters. These are the same specifications for most dimes minted since 1965. But where things really get intriguing are in the coin's mint errors. Now, not every coin collector is looking for perfection. In fact, the most valuable coins are often the ones that went a little wrong during production. Some 2005 P. Roosevelt dimes were struck with off-center errors, die cracks, or even double dies, where the image appears to have been stamped more than once, creating a slightly blurry or shadowed effect. There are also reports of coins with missing clad layers, revealing the copper core underneath. These types of mint errors can increase a coin's value significantly. So, why is this coin considered rare or valuable? It's not necessarily because it was produced in small numbers. In fact, millions were made. But among those millions, a select few have unusual features, especially those mint errors we just mentioned. For coin collectors, also known as numismatists, these errors turn a common coin into a collectible piece of U.S. coin history. And for older adults who may have jars or drawers full of coins collected over the years, you just might have one of these valuable Roosevelt dimes without even knowing it. Let's talk about what the 2005 Roosevelt dime is worth today. If you have one that's been heavily used, what we call worn or circulated, it will typically be worth face value, 10 cents. However, even in circulated condition, if there's an error present, the coin can be worth much more. Coins in uncirculated condition, meaning they have not been used in everyday transactions and show no signs of wear, are worth more to collectors. A 2005 Roosevelt dime in uncirculated condition might sell for around $1 to $3. But here's where it gets interesting: if the coin has a well-documented mint error, the value can jump significantly. In fact, in recent online auctions, some 2005 Roosevelt dimes with dramatic off-center strikes or missing clad layers have sold for anywhere from $50 to over $200, depending on the condition and the severity of the error. One certified example, meaning it was professionally graded and authenticated, sold for over $300. That's quite a return on a 10-cent coin. Now, I know many of you watching today have years of memories connected to coins. Maybe you started saving them as a child, or perhaps you collected state quarters with your grandchildren. Coin collecting is more than a hobby, it's a way to connect with our nation's history and hold a little piece of it in your hands. So the next time you're sorting through spare change, pay a little extra attention to your dimes. Look closely at the date, the mint mark, and any odd features like off-center images or unusual colors. You might just have a valuable U.S. coin sitting quietly in your pocket or resting in an old coin jar. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed learning about the 2005 Roosevelt dime and the world of rare coins and mint errors, please consider subscribing to the channel. We cover everything from valuable nickels and pennies to silver dollars and modern coin discoveries. Don't forget to like this video and share it with friends or family who might enjoy a little coin collecting adventure of their own. We're diving into a coin that might just surprise you. It's the 2007 Roosevelt dime, and while it looks like every other dime in your pocket, there are a few special versions of this coin that collectors are keeping a close eye on. Whether you're a longtime coin collector or just someone who enjoys checking their change, this story is worth your time. Now, the Roosevelt dime has been a staple of American currency since 1946. It was introduced shortly after the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt to honor his legacy, especially his work with the March of Dimes, a campaign to fight polio. His portrait on the dime is a quiet reminder of how one man's leadership shaped a nation through difficult times. Fast forward to 2007. That year, the United States Mint produced millions of Roosevelt dimes. The Philadelphia Mint alone, which uses the P mint mark, struck hundreds of millions. So naturally, most 2007 Roosevelt dimes aren't rare. They're still floating around in change, rolling through vending machines, and sitting quietly in old cookie tins. But here's the twist: some of them have errors and unusual features that make them quite valuable to collectors. Let's talk about how to identify one of these coins. First, flip it over and look for the mint mark. A tiny P near the date tells you it was made at the Philadelphia Mint. Next, hold it up to the light and examine the surface. The weight should be about 2.27 grams, and it's made of a copper-nickel clad, mostly copper, with a shiny nickel coating. The edge of the coin should be reeded, meaning it has those small ridges running around the side. Now, here's where things get interesting. Some 2007 Roosevelt dimes were released with mint errors, flaws that happened during the minting process. These are not damage from wear and tear but actual mistakes made at the mint. One of the most famous is the missing clad layer error. In these rare cases, the coin appears a dull copper color instead of the usual silvery shine. This happens when the outer nickel layer is never applied, leaving only the copper core exposed. These coins look dramatically different and can be worth quite a bit. Another type of error is an off-center strike. That's when the image on the coin is not properly aligned and appears shifted to one side. The more off-center it is, while still showing the date and mint mark, the more valuable it becomes. Then there are double dies, where parts of the image appear double due to a mistake during the die creation process. These can be seen in the lettering or even on Roosevelt's face if you look closely with a magnifying glass. So what are these error dimes worth? Well, that depends on the condition and the type of error. A regular 2007 P dime in worn or circulated condition is usually worth just face value, 10 cents. But if it's uncirculated, meaning it never entered general use and still has its mint luster, it could be worth between $1 and $3 to a collector who wants a nice example for their set. Now let's talk about the real money. A certified 2007 P Roosevelt dime with a dramatic error, like the missing clad layer or a major off-center strike, can sell for much more. In recent years, examples of missing clad layer dimes have sold at auction for anywhere from $75 to over $250, depending on condition and how well the error is preserved. A particularly well-centered off-strike dime might bring in similar figures. If you have one graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC and it receives a high mint state grade, the value can jump even higher. One real-life example, a 2007 P Roosevelt dime with a partial collar strike and strong off-center error, graded by NGC, sold for just over $200 at an online auction. Another collector paid nearly $300 for a certified missing clad layer coin in mint state condition. It just goes to show how much coin collectors are willing to pay for unusual and rare examples, even from relatively modern years like 2007. These valuable US coins are out there, and you don't need to be an expert to find them. Just take your time, look closely at your pocket change, and learn what to watch for. Mint error coins are especially popular among hobbyists right now, and the demand keeps rising. So, before you toss that handful of coins into a jar or vending machine, give those dimes a second look. You might just be holding on to a rare coin without even knowing it. And if you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about valuable coins, rare coin collecting, or how to spot US mint errors, go ahead and subscribe. We're here to help you discover the hidden treasures that might be sitting in your very own change. Well, what if I told you there's a particular dime from 2015 that has coin collectors all across the country paying close attention? Yes, we're talking about the 2015 D Roosevelt 1 dime coin. It may seem like an ordinary piece of change, but this small coin holds big surprises for those who know what to look for. Hello everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving into the fascinating story of a modern US coin that's catching the eye of coin enthusiasts, collectors, and even people just curious about rare coins that might be hiding in their pockets. So sit back, grab your favorite chair, and let's explore the details of this interesting little coin. The Roosevelt dime has been a familiar part of American coinage since 1946, introduced shortly after the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The dime was chosen to honor him not only because he led the country through the Great Depression and World War II, but also because of his strong support of the March of Dimes, a campaign that helped fight polio, the disease that affected Roosevelt himself. The 2015 Roosevelt dime continues that legacy. The D mint mark on the coin tells us it was minted in Denver. Most people wouldn't think twice about a dime from 2015, but like many coins, it's not just the year that makes it valuable. It's the details, the condition, and the errors that make all the difference. So, how do you identify this particular coin? First, you'll want to look for the date 2015 on the front side of the coin, just under Roosevelt's neck. Then, check for the small D mint mark to the left of the torch on the reverse side. That D tells us the coin was produced at the Denver Mint. The coin itself weighs about 2.27 grams and is made mostly of copper with a thin layer of nickel. That's the standard composition for Roosevelt dimes minted since 1965. Its diameter is 17.91 millimeters, and it has a reeded edge. That's the ridged edge we're all familiar with. But what really makes the 2015 D Roosevelt dime worth more than face value? It's all about condition and something collectors call mint errors. Mint errors are small mistakes that happen during the coin-making process, and believe it or not, collectors love them. They can include things like off-center strikes, double dies where the image appears doubled, or even missing clad layers. On the 2015 D dime, Some known errors include misaligned dies and doubling in the lettering, especially on the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." One of the most talked about errors on this coin is the misaligned die strike. That's when the front and back of the coin aren't lined up correctly, and the image might be pushed slightly off-center. In other cases, there have been dimes with partial missing clad layers, revealing the copper core underneath. These kinds of mint errors can make a huge difference in a coin's value. Let's talk about money now. How much is this coin really worth? If you find a regular 2015 D Roosevelt dime that's been well used and is heavily worn, it's usually still worth just 10 cents. But if it's in circulated but better condition, with only light wear, collectors might pay 25 to 50 cents for it, mainly if they're trying to complete a date and mint set. Now, if the coin is uncirculated, meaning it was never used in day-to-day transactions and shows no signs of wear, the value can climb to a couple of dollars, especially if it has a nice shine and clean strike. Certified coins, those that have been professionally graded and sealed by companies like PCGS or NGC, can be worth even more. A 2015 D Roosevelt dime graded MS68 by PCGS, for example, has sold for as much as $175 at auction. That's right, a 10-cent coin turning into $175 simply because of its condition. That if that same coin also has a mint error, such as doubling or an off-center strike, the price can rise significantly. In one recent online auction, a 2015 D Roosevelt dime with a dramatic off-center strike sold for over $300. Another with a visible double die error was picked up by a collector for around $250. These values may seem surprising, especially for such a modern coin, but it goes to show just how passionate coin collectors are about high-grade and rare US coins with mint errors. It also reminds us that valuable coins aren't just limited to the old silver pieces from the 1800s. Even coins from recent years can be quite valuable under the right circumstances. So what should you do? The next time you're sorting through change at the grocery store, or maybe checking the coins in your purse or wallet, keep an eye out for the 2015 D Roosevelt dime. Look closely for mint errors and check the condition. You might just find a small treasure hiding in plain sight. If you enjoy learning about coin collecting, rare dimes, mint marks, and US coins with value beyond their face amount, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We share easy-to-understand videos made for collectors of all experience levels, especially those who enjoy taking their time, appreciating history, and maybe even making a little money on the side. Thanks for joining me today. And remember, sometimes, the most valuable things are hiding right in your pocket. So keep checking your change, and I'll see you in the next video.